let's look at this AI tsunami that is coming, right? We talk about people who need to be told what to do, and they will come and do exactly that and go. Those jobs are going away. At the end of college education, the right question to ask once you graduate is, what do I know? Maybe a lot of people will say I'm known for breaking many things, but I would say I try to break things so that fix it, right? So to fix things, I have broken things. I think our entire education should be more coaching, like how sports is coached, how music is coached, instead of being classroom teaching where 60 or 80 students sit and one teacher will write something in the whiteboard and teach. So when I found the IVB model, it resonated with me. I would say instead of starting with the problems, because we have to start every day with the opportunities, I would look at how I got education and what was it when my daughters were in school and what has changed and why that change I think is not healthy, right? So I studied in a Tamil medium school, which is a government aided school. So in the school, in fact, I have not attended any private tuition almost all my school years, except for 10th standard mathematics tuition. Throughout my completing education, I have never attended any tuition classes or anything like that. So basically, you go to school. So there were teachers who were in the job because they love it, and you spend the time and the school was small in size, so the teachers did know about the student and their background and things like that. They learn that over a period of time. They take personal interest in the student. So whatever encouragement they give, or whatever punishment they give, or whatever they talk to the students, this is always a little bit personalized, because there was a good relationship. You are in the same place for a long time, and the teachers know you, teachers know your background, teachers know your strength and weakness, and at least one teacher will take interest in every student and things like that, right? And I could study and go to an engineering college, which is again a government engineering college, and complete my course. So the fact that I had time, right, and I was only spending my time inside the school or college campus during the periods in which the academic work was there. Outside of that time, I had a lot of free time to play. I had a lot of free time to basically make friends and fight with friends and do a lot of things, right? So that's what finally helped me when I became, when I joined a job and when I started working and things like that. Whereas when I see, last 25 years, especially how this is changing, right? From a very young age, kids go to school, and before going to school, they go for some tuition or special classes or coaching classes. After they come back from school, they again go to coaching classes, and when they are admitted in a college, they wake up at 6:30 and go and spend 1.5 to 2 hours in the bus to go to the college, again 1.5 to 2 hours to come back from the college. So by the time like when you hit the bed after your academic engagement, you are dead almost. So you just sleep, and then next day you wake up and the routine continues. So over a period of time, I would say that last 25 years, I saw people who have got very high marks walking into our companies, but they have no like I would say practical social engagement skills and things like that, because all the time they were confined to a bus and classrooms and coaching classes and tuition centers and things like that, right? So when I see this, basically the issue I feel is, and the cost of education is going up. So basically, if I remember, my engineering fees was, a semester was 180 rupees, and the odd semester fees is 220 rupees, including a 40 rupee, special fees. So that means for 4 years of engineering education, my total fees was 1,600 rupees, right? Whereas the fees keep going up, and you still need, outside coaching classes and tutoring and special classes and things like that to to score good in the examination, right? That means either we can't make the assumption that the student quality has gone down, because the reality is that people are getting smarter and smarter, right? That means what happens, when people pay high fees inside the classroom is not very healthy, because they don't learn much inside the classroom, and they need all this outside system things, to basically pursue whatever, whether they want to be a doctor, or whether they want to be an engineer, whether they want to be a artist, whether they want to be an actor, sportsman, anything and everything have to be done outside of school hours. So this school or college has become a tax people have to pay, and then you pursue your interest outside of that. So I see that as an opportunity. Why should the schools be like this? Where you are very time inefficient inside that academic institution, and whatever interest you have has to be pursued outside of that institution. So if this changes, where people can pursue their interest inside the academic institution, there is so much time for people, and so much more they can all learn and do. So that is the opportunity I see. Basically, with respect to IVB, what I am very excited about is that there is a very hands-on work, and learn from the work, and learn the whatever theory, whatever concepts, whatever you have to learn is in the context of getting something done, right? And even when during the first year, when students come in, the entire emphasis is on not teaching something in the classroom and giving a written examination kind of thing, but how do students basically do something based on what they have learnt, and evaluating what they have done, and basically helping them learn better and things like that. So that approach, where while it's an alternative to school, but it's unschooling the kids and making them free and helping them do things, and in the process learn. So that is something very exciting for me. See, there are two things as a parent or even as a student one should understand, right? The first one is what is education, right? In fact, I have always loved what Albert Einstein said about education, right? He said, my recollection is, he said something like, when you finish your college and you get your degree, you stand outside the gate of your university and ask yourself, what do I know? Right? Basically, that what do I know is, what do I know with which I can earn a livelihood, I can support my family, I can contribute to the society, I can be productive, right? So that's the whole idea of that, what do I know? So we know in India, for many years, many organizations and many company CEOs are saying this, when they do the employability report for graduates in India or engineering graduates in India, right? More than 2/3, sometimes 75% they say, sometimes 80%. So that higher percentage of students who finish and get their graduation or degree certificate, as per the surveys, when they stand and ask themselves what do they know, they actually don't know anything. So that is the very depressing part of the thing. They have spent 16 years in schools and colleges, but they can't earn a livelihood with what they have learnt, in the school or colleges, right? But we think that their numbers are accurate. Probably, in my view, even the people who get a job, after they get a job, most of their training is on the industry. So that means the percentage is definitely higher than, unemployability percentage is higher than what these reports project, right? So this answer to the question, right? Every day, since parents know life better, when my child goes to the school and come back, am I asking them the question, what do they know on behalf of them? Because when they ask that question, that it's maybe too late. I learned this question when I was about 28, 29 years old, right? But many people, when they learn it at that age, it's probably too late. But parents can ask on behalf of their child, what do they know when they go to school? And if the school doesn't teach any life skills or livelihood skills, then they have to question that. So that is the first important part. And second thing is, since you talked about the AI, tsunami that is coming and things like that, for a long time, for example, if you see the Western countries, we all look this layoff and job losses and things like that negatively, but in most of the Western countries, that has become a routine and a part of life, right? So people lose their job, they can go back to college, or they can go back to learn a new skill that is more marketable or more required for the future, equip themselves and go back to the job. So there is a cushion to relearn, cushion to unlearn and things like that. Whereas in India, we still think that somebody starts as something in their career for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, they have to do the same thing. And once you start, you don't have to learn anything new. So the word student, in fact, when I was 25 or 26, I went and looked up in the dictionary what does student mean. The student has nothing to do with somebody going to school or somebody going to college. Student just means somebody willing to learn. That means we have to recognize that every person, the reason they are going to an academic institution is to be a student for life. So the attitude they should develop is, I will be a student for life, I will keep learning from whatever environment, whatever experience, whatever book, whatever video, whatever thing I am exposed to, right? So being a learner for life is important. For that, what is important is, how do I learn? So do I learn how to learn? Right? So even as parents or children, I have to ask, did I just learn this, or did I learn how to learn something? Because the best and the most critical skill for survival is learning how to learn. So these two are, in my opinion, very important. Today, if a parent says, you get good marks, I am sending you to school, you get good mark. If you get a good mark, you are studying well. Because if you get a good mark, you will get a good job. That correlation is broken, right? So everything was optimized to get good marks. So if you are not getting good mark, you are struggling to get good mark. As a parent, I send you to a coaching class. I send you to special, classes. As a teacher also, I want to take special class for you. But the correlation between good marks is good job and good future is broken now. Good mark doesn't mean anything, right? So that means we are pushing. So even today you go to engineering, good marks. So somebody getting 8.5 or 9.5 CGPA, we think is great. We reward that, right? So that correlation is broken. That is what is important to recognize. In my opinion, most of these graduates who graduate, blaming the student for not finding a job is a very wrong thing to do, because they are a victim of the system. See, the system says you study well, you get good mark. They keep chasing that. They go to college, you study well, you get good grades. They keep chasing that, right? Finally, they get good grade and graduate, and they don't get a job. That is when reality hits them. and they have never been trained to handle how to respond to that. They are also confused, right? So the responsibility and accountability for this problem lies with the system, whoever has designed this system, right? Because most of the people are going through this, one, because they have no choice, and two, because not everybody is blessed with the quality to think about the system and develop the system for their own benefit, right? So 99% of the people are just following the system and end up as a victim of the system after spending so much time and so much money, and like that is how we have to treat this. This is not so the responsibility and accountability, in my opinion, doesn't lie with the teacher or the student or the it lies with the system, because most people just chase or follow the system. People are asking questions, but the wrong questions, because the student teacher or the school parent relationship, or has now become a customer service provider relationship. School is a service provider and the student or parent is a customer. So it is a very commercial relationship. Now in our entire ecosystem, the question asked is, why did my child not get 90 mark? Why did he or she get 85? Or why did you deduct 1 mark for this? Because I had been to a parent-teacher meeting for my daughter. The only one I went to when she was in her Montessori 1, right? I saw how active the parents were, and I felt very sorry for the teachers and the school, right? But so because mark has become the gold standard metric that everybody wants to chase, so all the questions are about mark. So this subject is not taught properly. Okay, we will put extra classes. My son is lagging behind in this subject. Okay, send him to tuition, or we will take extra classes. So there are, basically the parents are also highly invested and very interested in seeing their kids successful. The school also wants to show great results so that they have delighted customers, right? Unfortunately, they are chasing the wrong, metric, which is the mark. See, I would say the first thing is to understand our talent. So if I am an 18-year-old today, I have to know my talent, because we are moving from the era of industrialization to an era of personalization with AI, right? So in industrialization, basically people chased what has mass employment opportunities, right? So if software engineering has mass employment opportunity, everybody wanted to be a software engineer, irrespective of what they are talented in, right? So that identifying what is my talent, what is my interest, what is really something I want to do that I enjoy doing, those are very important. Because if I'll do something as a livelihood, as a job, right, I will show up in some place at 9 a.m. and I'll leave that place at 5. I will warm the bench and I will do what other people tell me to do. Those kinds of jobs are what is taken over by AI. That means anything I do, I have to enjoy and do. Only things we will enjoy and do are things which we are talented in and which we are very interested in, when we pursue our own goals. So it is very important, when I am in school or when I am in college, right, I understand myself, I understand my strengths, I understand, and I am able to identify a goal that I want to pursue. And then I equip myself in terms of the skills required by doing whatever work, learn whatever concepts I have to learn, and learn that, so that I equip myself to pursue that goal. I even pursue that goal and fail. And as I start doing, I will find out maybe I am not really interested in that goal. I am interested in something else. So I then reset. and then I iterate and I try something and I fail again, right? But if this process is repeated, so if somebody is spending 4 years in college, can they say I have repeated this process at least 15 times, maybe 10 times, right? They would have learned so much. So when they come out, they are not looking for, who is giving me job, or I won't say whatever job I will get, I will do, right? I will be very focused on this is what I want to do, this is my goal, and which place will help me pursue that. The moment I go and talk to them, they will see my initiative, my agency, my own drive and things like that. It becomes easy to even get a job. So basically, if you are going to spend 3 years or 4 years in college, spend the time to understand yourself, your talent, your interest, your enjoy, where you get good enjoyment, good experience, and keep fine-tuning that. Yeah, I think, what works for most people, because, like Confucius said, there are 3 ways people learn. One is learning by reflection. So people like Buddha had some experience and by reflection they learned. So he said the learning by reflection is the wisest, right? But that is probably 1 in a million or 1 in a billion kind of a people. Then second thing is learning by imitation. So he said the learning by imitation is the easiest. So that means we look at what successful people have done and we imitate that. So those are jobs where like I want to be a content creator. There are enough content creator now. You follow the content creator you love watching, and how do they do it, right? Or you want to be an engineer, you want to be a mechanical engineer. You identify world's top 3, top 5 mechanical engineers whose what they did, you were inspired by. So today there are enough contents, you can learn about anybody, and so like that, you pick the problem. Like you are a bike enthusiast, then you want to know how the bike works, you want to know how to get the best performance out of the bike. So follow the best people in that, learn from them. See, today if I am interested in something, anything, there is enough and more material available, and those subjects can be learnt in a very simple manner. And the thing is, I can also do something. So it is not like just reading theory. If I want to do something in a very small scale with very frugal materials and things like that, I can get my hands dirty also. So much content is available, so much experimenting materials are available. So it will be easy for people. So that is the way I would say people should start, right? Whatever I am interested in consuming, if I want to create that, whether it is a bike or a movie or a EV vehicle or a chat GPT or AI tool or whatever, go and do the what people call the go back, what is behind this, how does it work, right? And how can I do something like that? So then you get that experience. The moment you start doing and you even taste, you fail or you taste a small success, you will be addicted to doing things. Then your whole journey changes. So I want to complete what Confucius said also. So basically he completed it saying, learning from experience is the bitterest. So that means if you don't do anything for 4 years or 3 years in college, come out and nothing to be employed, right? You can't do anything, then the journey is going to be bitter. So that means either by reflection or by imitation, we have to learn something. Yeah, I see. Number one is the first year you mentioned the 10 industry, immersion. The people who teach them subjects, and the students also do projects, right? And there is one project which is cross-functional, which takes all their learning and they do the project. So that is exactly the kind of thing required. Because when we were discussing, You also mentioned that in most of the courses, between 20 to 50% of the assessment, on an average about 30% assessment is only based on quizzes and tests, whereas 50 to 70% of the assessment is based on the project, what they do based on what they have learned. So in English they say, you will know the quality of rubber only when the rubber meets the road. So that means if I listen to something or I read something, I think I understood, but only when I start doing it, I will know how much I don't know, right? So it applies to simple things. You give a simple instruction to somebody on how to make a rasam, right? They will say, I got it. But the moment they go and start preparing the rasam, they will know they even if they know the steps, they don't know which order to do. They will get so many doubts, right? So the same is true, but if they do it 10 times, they will never forget. So that experience of doing will make them ask many questions, to the industry expert. Since the industry person has been there, done that, he would love that question. He will entertain them. He will be able to answer those questions. So the students make progress. Then they are able to complete the project. They get all their doubts clarified because they have done it themselves. They know what they have done, how they have done it, and things like that. And that experience, stays with them. In fact, Benjamin Franklin, I don't know how many know, he was one of the presidents of USA, and he was a teacher and he is a great philosopher. So he said this beautifully. Benjamin Franklin said, tell me I forget, show me I might remember, and involve me I learn. So that means only when you involve me and do something with me, along with me, I learn. Right? See, we keep this kind of learning in all the art and sports. For example, you go to a music class, music teacher doesn't sing and say, you go sing at home and come back. Right? Every swara she teaches one by one. Right? You go to a boxing coach, you go to a badminton coach, you go to a tennis coach. There, the conceptual teaching followed by practical, till you get that practical right, then they move to the next step. That's how the coaching is working. So I will basically say, instead of when you have an industry person and this kind of system on board, instead of a teacher student, it becomes a coach student relationship. So I think our entire education should be more coaching, like how sports is coached, how music is coached, instead of being classroom teaching where 60 or 80 students sit and one teacher will write something in the whiteboard and teach. No, lot of changes happening in education system, they don't know. Lot of things they are reading in newspaper or in YouTube videos or whatever about the job market. So there is a lot of fear and uncertainty about, for example, suddenly they read that, like there won't be any software engineer, right? Or Indian IT industry will have a huge problem and things like that. These are the news that are part of everyday, news and news channels or other media and things like that, right? So that they are concerned about. So that means till last year or year before that, if I will get computer science, I will go for computer science, right? So that was the default thing. And if I will get computer science, I don't get computer science, there is a lot of pressure on the kid because to choose anything else, right? So that from that environment now, so that people want clarity, right? So as a parent, so if my child gets enough mark to get into computer science, enough mark to get into the best university in computer science, then they feel they have done their duty and to their child, right? So now that is changing because they don't know what to do, with all the news that they are exposed to, what they are hearing from their friends and relatives and people like them. So there is a lot of confusion. So when they come to me, I tell the same thing like I answered to you. We are moving away from the industrial era to a personalization era. So that means what is important is your child does what they love rather than what will get them the job, and let them, if they do what they love, they start doing something, right? And then they keep discovering, because this is going to be a journey, right? In 40 years, for example, in the last 40 years, I have done 4 or 5 jobs. So if you say I have had at least a moderately successful career, I started as a chip designer, I became an embedded software engineer, then I became an application software engineer, then I became a sort of a entrepreneur who had to do everything, and then I have become an investor now. So while I was an entrepreneur, I have done engineering, sales and marketing, accounting, everything, every work that goes on in a company, I have also done hands-on, right, at different stages. And now I am an investor, right? So you can say I have had 5 different kind of jobs at least. Maybe it is more than that over a 36-year career. So even if I had stayed as an embedded software engineer or a chip designer, probably I would not have learnt all the things I have learnt, and I don't know how life would have been, right? So this thing of people have to relearn a new skill or become a bigger expert in what they do and things like that. So if people will have a 40-year career, a normal person should be prepared to relearn things and relaunch their career 5 times. This was already true in all developed countries. People at least have 2 or 3 times they have relaunched their careers in the past. And everybody have to brace up to this. So I will take those questions, those fears and those doubts and uncertainties in that context. And my advice is the same. Let them be a learner. Let them learn how to learn. Let them be hands-on in what they do, right? Let them always say, what is education? If they are asked that question, they can share so many experiences and so many things they can do. That's what is important. Actually, this is a very good question, because let's look at this AI tsunami that is coming, right? We talk about people who need to be told what to do, and they will come and do exactly that and go, right? Those jobs are going away. That means because those jobs will eventually be replaced by robots, or those jobs will be automated or made autonomous and things like that. So what everybody agrees on as the most required and celebrated skill is agency. So what is agency? Agency is the initiative, right? I look at something, basically when I say look, it includes all our senses, right? I hear something, I see something, I smell something, I taste something, right? I feel something. Everything together, I spot a problem or I spot an opportunity, right? I want to provide a solution. Now, if I do it, on my own, where the risks and rewards are with me, I get investors, it's an entrepreneur. Whereas if I do it inside a company, there are many people who do it inside some company because they need some certain financial or psychological safety to fail, right? So those entrepreneurs are also there. But the future, the people who will always have jobs are people with this agency. So that means they have to be these entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs. Whether you work for somebody else or whether you work for yourself, you need this agency to survive. So IVB education, where it puts agency first, is I think the most, I would say appropriate, the best mark to market in terms of what is the future skill required. See, when Vaibhav Suryavamshi in IPL at 14, when he scores like this, and at 15 he is getting selected for India, and this has not happened first time today. Even Sachin Tendulkar was 15 when he was picked for test matches the first time and things like that. We are able to believe that. So in sports we have had many examples of very high achievers at a very young age. So I think human beings are capable of that, right? In Western countries, we have heard that even Bill Gates started when he was in school, and even Google founders or Mark Zuckerberg, everybody started when they were in school or just in college and things like that, right? But so that means we have the potential, or many of us amongst us have the potential to do that. So whether we want our education system to suppress that potential, that is the question here. So if we give the opportunity, people are going to use it, and they are going to surprise us. And we have even seen in chess from our own country how young our high achievers in chess are. Not only students, for everybody it is very important, because again I'll go back to the psychological safety and the freedom to fail, the freedom to experiment, those are all available, right? So even companies know somebody is coming on an internship, so they are not going to give their most mission critical something where like it must be done kind of projects, right? Companies can also run some experiments, right? And so that means the both the student explores and understands the company, the organization behavior, what are the ways in which the interpersonal skills, the project management skills, the reporting skills, and lot of those things the student learns. For the company also, it helps them augment the team where required in existing projects, or run experiments within the company and things like that. And if the person does very well and shows lot of agency and initiative to solve the problem, the company also gets a very good person they can hire and things like that. So it's a win-win. So I would definitely say the students have a lot to gain by going for internships. See, it's very, very important, great idea, because number one, many times, like I would say, the fear of failure is the number one reason why people don't try anything, right? And the number two is like they look at somebody with agency or with higher skill, and they withdraw thinking that they can't do it, right? So by telling every student that you attempt building your business in the final year, I would say that experience is going to teach so much about themselves, because they might, when they build it, they might realize that whoever they thought is great and I don't stand a chance, so I won't try. They will find that they do some things much better than them, and they actually have a chance, or they actually do better than them. So nothing boosts confidence, right, than doing something and even failing. So the success or failure doesn't matter. If I do something, and just want to make it work for some time, that is the best teacher in terms of experience, and that boosts confidence. Finally, what is the purpose of when you come out of college, what do you want your child to be? You want them to be very confident, you want them to be ready to face the world, and you want them to have the right attitude and skills to face the world, right? So this attempting to build one business for a year builds all of them, and it teaches them collaboration, because to succeed they will go and ask for help, they will understand the importance of helping, they will go and help other people. So it's the best way to learn. Actually, I'll give you a few practical experiences, but one of them is a very well-known person, Girish Mathrubootham of Freshworks. He had applied for a job in AdventNet, which was the Zoho. AdventNet later became Zoho. So he worked with us for 10 years. So during the interview, they found, all the interviewers found him very good, but his compensation expectation was higher. So he wasn't, they were not sure whether to take him. So I had the habit of looking at all the resumes where interviews have happened, with all the interview people who interviewed, their comments and things like that on a Saturday. So I saw Girish's resume, and he had done very well in the interview, but one thing that caught my attention is that he had worked in the US, he has come back, he has started a business and failed, right? So I felt, this is hugely valuable, right? So that is how, actually without meeting him, we made him an offer also. He joined and he worked for 10 years with us. So the reason I am saying is, like people who have attempted something sincerely and failed, you will know that, you will feel it when you meet them, right? That is how it is, right? That experience cannot be hidden. While it can be done at home, right? The effort of doing at home will be 2 times, 3 times more than the effort of doing it inside a place like an IVB. So that is the first thing we have to call out. So ecosystem is the most important thing. For example, like even in India, why did industry? We have industry cluster, in the sense that if you take any place, right? Coimbatore was the Manchester of South India, right? So if you take Chennai, it is well known for the automobile ancillaries and automobile industries and things like that, right? Today, Bangalore gets predominantly high number of software and technology companies. If you take Silicon Valley, it is the capital of innovation in the world, right? For many generations, right? So it is all because the ecosystem exists there. So what is common sense in Silicon Valley is very hard knowledge in Chennai, right? What is easily available, whether it is a technical help or a marketing help or go-to-market help or investment or whatever, right? What is available, much more easily is a very hard thing in Chennai or even Bangalore and things like that. So that means the ecosystem, number one, by being part of it, you get a step up, and number two, you get more help. Sometimes you get help proactively, sometimes you get the right help when you ask for it, and things like that, from the ecosystem. So that means that the ecosystem can basically again double or triple your learning. So in that sense, I would say, if somebody wants to do things from their home, do everything, they'll probably, it's 5 times harder than doing it where there is an ecosystem and where there is the right kind of practices being followed. See, like Confucius said, learning by imitation is the easiest, right? So people, like when you are part of other 100 people, like somebody figures out how to build an AI agent, then his 5 friends know how to build the AI agent, then the next set of 25 guys learn from them. So only the last 10 people who don't want to do it at all never learn, but remaining 90 people over a 6-month period will learn that. Whereas if I am at home, I will never learn that. So if you are part of a cohort, a lot of things you learn by just copying what other people do, and then you apply your originality also to some things. No, I have always believed, right, for a very long time. In fact, I must say that as a child also, I am my maybe a lot of people will say I am known for breaking many things, but I would say I try to break things so that fix it, right? So to fix things, I have broken things, right? That's what I would like to believe. So, but very hands-on, right? And I have always found academic learning to be very boring for me. But whenever I wanted to do something, to get that done, learning was very interesting for me. But I can't just learn a theory for the sake of learning the theory, right? But if I am part of a project to build something, whatever theory is there, I am very happy to learn that, right? So I wanted a reason to learn, right? And I believe, when I became an entrepreneur and when I was working, I found that majority of the people are like me, right? So the people who don't do well academically, most of them are not talented. They were just not engaged in academics, right? The moment you tell them to do something, right, they become very good and they become alive, right? So this problem has been, like helping people like me has been one of the things that was always in my mind. So when I found the IVB model, it resonated with me, and I felt basically my experience and whatever I think are good, I'll get somebody to discuss with, and whatever are good ideas in them can be incorporated in IVB. So I found that very exciting. So that's the reason I invested. Definitely. See, when we consider all startups, what is coming from within our own ecosystem are more special, right? So definitely we will consider, and we will also consider it on priority, meaning because known devil is always better than unknown angel, right? No, I'll go back to the first two things I mentioned, right? Basically, at the end of college education, the right question to ask once you graduate is, what do I know? Right? Basically, that will support my livelihood, that will help me do things and help me contribute to the society. So you have to choose education that will put you in the best position to answer that what do I know, and I believe IVB will help answer the best. And second very important thing is, what is the education that will give me the time and space so that I learn what are my talents, I learn what are my interests, I learn what I enjoy doing, and give a lot of exposure and experience to basically discover myself so that I am in the best position to do what gives me joy as part of my career. Time is the most valuable resource today, right? You have all the time in your hands, and because you have less drudgery and you have all the space also. So basically, use the time wisely and to do as much as you can. Explore all the areas where you think you have talent in. Find out what you enjoy the most and how you can build more skills so that you can answer that question, what do I know, very confidently, and you can face the world boldly when you come out. All the best.